So today I want to talk about the movie Rocky Balboa, the sixth film in the Rocky Balboa franchise, and this movie has a very special place in my heart for several different reasons. First off, Rocky Balboa, the character, might be my favorite movie character of all time. I don't like picking favorites, but he'd be a contender, certainly. Beyond that, the Rocky franchise is one of my favorite franchises of all time. I love this series. Beyond that, this particular movie is the first movie that I saw in the theater after I got married. And we went and saw it on our honeymoon. And to that point, today, the day I'm putting this video out, is the 10th anniversary of this film coming out and my 10th wedding anniversary. So I wanted to talk about this very special film in my life that falls on a very special day in my life. So if you're a fan of the Rocky movies, I have previously reviewed both Rocky and Rocky 4. You can check those out wherever the card is. But with that said, talking about the movie Rocky Balboa, this came at a very interesting time in Sylvester Stallone's career. He'd had a lull around the turn of the century where he hadn't really had a lot of good stuff. It had been 9 years since he did the movie Copland, which is really good. And then from there, he just had some straight-to-DVD thrillers. He had some flops. He had some embarrassing stuff that he did. But you look at the kind of this 9-year period of time, and there's just nothing memorable in there. And so he returned to the character that made him famous. He returned to the method of storytelling that basically created his career. And whereas the first Rocky film was kind of an allegory for where he was at in life, a guy looking for his shot at success, his shot to show, hey, I'm a man, I can be successful, I can do this. That's what he was doing in writing the script and pushing to wanting to star in it. And that's what the story of the first film was all about, a guy struggling to figure out life, and does he have what it takes? That's what that movie was all about. And he returned both to this character and that type of storytelling with the movie Rocky Balboa, in that he was a has-been movie star that was doing Spy Kids 3 and kind of embarrassing himself in these straight-to-video thrillers that kind of flopped in the US and maybe were successful some other country. And so he was past his prime. And so he wrote a Rocky story all about a Rocky that was past his prime, wondering, do I still have what it takes? Can I still do this? And that's what him writing the script for the movie was as well. And so it very much mirrored the original Rocky film. And I think that this film is absolutely wonderful. It's a great bookend to the original Rocky franchise. It's continued on in the Creed franchise in a, once again, wonderful, a beautiful way, incredible continuation of that franchise that's a true to the original Rocky while being a actual direct sequel to Rocky 4. I mean, just a great movie. But as just the Rocky saga, this is just a really inspired bookend to that series. So let's talk about the good in this movie. First off, this movie's probably closest in tone and not necessarily the direct themes, but the type of themes are the most reminiscent of the first film. Now, obviously, the first film is about a guy discovering, do I have what it takes? And then this film is about discovering, do I still have what it takes? But those are the themes that really most guys go through in life at certain points in time. They're trying to discover, what am I good at? Do I have what it takes when I'm put up to the challenge? That's what the first film is about, and that's really what this film is about. So you can see very much how they feed off of each other and work together in that nature. Also, the acting in this movie is just great. Once again, you'd kind of forgotten that Stallone was a legitimate, real deal actor. So he knocks it out of the park in the first Rocky movie. And then throughout the 80s, you kind of forgot that he was a good actor because the Rocky movies in the 80s were kind of cartoons. Him fighting a Russian and with 5 training montages and, ending the Cold War. You don't think acting, that's cartoonish entertainment. The Rambo movies, the character, especially in the second and third films, was just very much a tough guy that just didn't talk much and mumbled kind of when he did. And the first film definitely has some acting in it, but by the last ones, once again, it's this cartoon of patriotism and pro-veterans and missing kind of realizing how good of an actor he is. And then also he did Over the Top. He did the arm wrestling movie. He did Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. And he did a lot of stuff that made you forget he was he's actually a great actor. And then, as I mentioned before, he was in this big lull. And so when you thought of Stallone, you thought of, by this point in time, people had looked negatively on kind of the Rocky movies a little bit, that they weren't in fashion. Can you make another one of these? This guy's kind of a joke. This, guy's ego drove him to try and look great. And look how good I look. And just, look how good I look. Making fun of him and stuff like that. And he comes back with this movie that he wrote, directed, starred in, and great acting. And that's him, but almost everyone else too. Even like the boxer guy, who's an actual boxer. It's not like he gives this wonderful acting performance that should get an Oscar. No. But he played a character right. And he played someone like himself very well, very convincing in the movie. Milo Ventimiglia, whatever his name is, playing Rocky's son, has perfectly bad chemistry with Rocky, which is supposed to have this distant feeling, and it worked very well. And then, the two guys look like father and son. Milo, great actor, and just great direction to go with the relationship in these two characters. Reworking in the Marie character as someone that's not really a romance, but it's a guy that needs a girl in his life that he can be the hero to. And so she's that person. And great all around. I can't say this definitively, but as far as I know, I would call this the best looking Stallone directed film, that it just looks great. There's wonderful shots in it. The cinematography, the way he decided to do the graphics, the color grading and everything, it just looks really good. Even the way that he handled the final fight at the end was done in a way to intentionally look like an actual boxing match. And so it's the most convincing boxing of the entire series, even though he's 60 years old in it. And so once again, that works great. I love that Duke came back to train him, that you got this guy that got to be in all 6 of those original films. And so I love this movie. It's such a good movie. And I'll say, even to the plot of the movie, that we'll get into in just a little bit, there's some critics about the plot of the movie. It seems entirely plausible, this idea that sports news would get obsessed with which competitors would win and run it through a computer simulator. That's absolutely what these channels do, what they want to do, the types of things. And absolutely that a bunch of promoters would be like, hey, let's put on like this show and let's get the has-been and the current champ, throw them in an exhibition match. That is so current culture of looking for something that you can market. And these guys, all they want to do is, how can we market it so people talk about it? That's the plot of this movie, and that's what really happens. And so using that as a plot device, that you would take a guy that's kind of very simple and dumb in Rocky, that he would see that, and the one thing he knows is, am I still good at that? Is that real? Would I win? That's him. That is so the Rocky character. That is so our culture. And then likewise, the reigning champion, the way they wrote the character, which once again, he's like a hated champion that he wants to prove himself to the people. That's so current sports culture. That's so current sports news. And that's true to the Rocky character. So the plot, I thought, worked out great. I love the training montage in it with like old Rocky acting like old Rocky, but being still intense, but training differently. And he's not doing some of the stuff that he did before, and he's doing some new stuff. And like I just said, Duke's a cool character. And so it's wonderful to see him one last time calling out orders on what he needed to do. And I love the ending of this movie. If you haven't seen it, spoilers, but so he loses at the end and doesn't care. Like, he makes no deal of losing at all. He doesn't even care what the result is. And if you watch the DVD, they have an alternate ending where he wins, and it's the same footage. Like, the way they did it was, whether he won or lost, he does not care at all. The only thing he cares about is, hey, I made it to the end, and like, people are cheering for me. I did it one last time, and that is such a great bookend. That is a perfect bookend to the series, and I'm so glad they went with he lost. It's not even on his radar. Did I win or did I lose? He lost, and doesn't matter. And basically, just even for the other boxer guy that you don't really like him that much, but you like him a little bit more at the end because he got, an old guy beat him up and he like took it. And so, wonderful ending to, as I've said many times, bookending this franchise. As for the negative, I don't have too much to say on the bad side of things. The one character I did not like really at all was Marie's son, and that Rocky's trying to build a relationship with him. It just seemed unnecessary because you've already got Rocky with Polly. I forgot to mention, Polly's great in this movie too. But we've already got Rocky so he's got a friend. We've got him with a, not love interest, but kind of love interest. We've already got him connected with an opponent. We've got him connected with a son character. And so this just seems like, all right, why does he have to have a second son type character mentoring? We don't need that in this movie. And so it felt unnecessary. And the character himself, I don't know if it was the actor or the writing, but he wasn't charismatic. He didn't have a charm to him. It was just kind of like this guy that you don't like. So that seemed like an extra subplot you could have cut out and focused more on the stuff the other things that were there. Not necessarily cut him out of the movie, but cut the subplot specifically of Rocky trying to be buddies with him. We don't need that specifically in the movie. The other complaint I might have about it, and this is really a nitpick, is perhaps having a little bit more of a training montage spread a little bit more throughout the film. Not montage. Have training start a little bit earlier in the film because he's this old guy, and the way the movie works out is that we go through everything, and then finally they agree that they're going to let him fight, and then they do one training montage, and boom, it's the day of the fight. Is kind of the way it unfolds in the movie. So there isn't a sense of passage of time of him going from old man that you can still beat you up as an old man, but he's an old man, to he's fighting and he's shredded and looks like better than, I'll ever look in my whole life. They could have done more to build that up and just start little things a little bit sooner to show him training. And then you do your montage right beforehand if it gets intense. But that's a nitpick, and I like training montages. I like lifting weights and stuff like that, so I like those types of things. So that's just me. Last thing I want to talk about are the common complaints against this film that I don't think they hold up. So the big complaint against this film is the in-fight isn't plausible. The simple argument is that 60-year-old man takes on the champ. 60-year-old man's going to lose. He doesn't have a chance. It's not going to happen. So the whole plot of the movie is stupid and makes no sense. And I just think that's wrong. I think objectively speaking, you don't have much of a case. The simple fact of the matter is that in 1994, George Foreman, at 45 years old, won the heavyweight title. So the movie's unclear on Rocky's age. It doesn't say that he's 60. Stallone was 60. Does not look 60 in the movie with this, how ripped and muscly he is. But so his character could be a little bit younger. George Foreman was 45 and did win the title. Not just exhibition, not just actually won the title and retired a few years later. So that's a thing locked in. So you can just say, without any reservation, a movie where a guy wins the title at 45 matches reality. You could tell George Foreman's story and it matches reality. So then our suspension of disbelief is then, if 45-year-old can win it, can guy in late 50s, because you will call it, give a 5-year gap of wiggle room here on his age, can 55 to 60-year-old compete in an exhibition? Right off the bat, I think that that's a fair thing to say. Yeah, he probably could. Then move beyond that. Within the realm of the storytelling here, Rocky is established as a guy that he goes the distance. He's a guy that can take a beating and keeps on going. So that's built into the character. That's who he is. Specifically when he's motivated, it's fully established. Motivated Rocky doesn't go down. I mean, he keeps on getting back up. Built into the story once again, Mason the Lion Dixon shows up to the fight unprepared. He's like, I'm fighting an old man. I'm just going to go in there. I don't care. That's built into the story. And then built into the story also is Mason Lion Dixon hurts his hand. So is it plausible that a absolutely shredded 60-year-old man who with a reputation of not going down shows up to fight a champ that's not prepared, that has a broken hand? Is it plausible that old man could go the distance? Of course it is. I mean, within the realm of what things that actually happen in reality and what's built into the story here, of course he could go the distance in this fight, in the world that they've crafted, and in light of George Foreman won the heavyweight title at 45 years old. So I just wanted to go there because some people, that's the big criticism against this movie. It strains credibility, and I just don't think it does. And it's 1994 is when George Foreman won the heavyweight title, and with modern medicine, with the things you can go in with the doctors and get legal prescriptions for, with the actual supplement market, with what we know about nutrition, anti-aging. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of older guys that are looking crazy good. Well, it's Stallone just being the example of this. I have not seen a shirtless picture of him in a few years. The last shirtless picture I saw of him, he was like 67 years old. Still looked better than I will ever look in my entire life. Muscular, shredded, 67-year-old, whatever horse steroids he's on. But you can do that now. They have the things so that you can have the body of a professional athlete into your 60s, and in his case, probably he'll be 90 years old and that's my impression of 90-year-old Stallone. I'm going to keep doing that in reviews. All that said, what's my rating? I'm going to give this a 9.5 out of 10. I love this movie. It's a great bookend to one of my favorite franchises, a great send-off to one of my favorite characters. It's true to the themes of the original, which I would give a 10 out of 10. It's a well-crafted story. It's a timely story. It's so well done. Couple of nitpicks. It's not as good as the original. There's a little bit of, in saying that it's continuing the themes of the original, you can say it's not as original as the original for those reasons. So I'll ding it to a 9.5, which is to say it's still one of my favorite movies of all time. And wonderful that that's the movie I ended up seeing on my honeymoon. The day after I got married, we went to the movies. We went and saw that movie. And like, they could have been embarrassment. If we'd gone, the first movie we saw in the theaters was Rocky V. That's a bad kickoff to your honeymoon and to your marriage. But it wasn't. It was this wonderful film that I love. So if you haven't seen it, don't go check it out until you've seen the other Rocky movies. And I think this really is one of the coolest franchises of all time because we're now 40 years into it and we're still watching this character. And that's really cool to see a character through different stages of life and that they've managed to rein it back in from the wackiness of the 80s and the crappiness of Rocky V. And that we've gotten these last two movies have just been stellar. What do you think about the Rocky movies? Tell me in the comment section, is Rocky Balboa one of your favorites? What is your favorite Rocky movie? Let's talk about it because I don't want to just talk about Rocky. I really want to talk with you about Rocky in the comment sections. Let's get it going in the comment sections. Have a lively discussion there. With that said, if you're new to my channel, you've never clicked that subscribe button, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I like talking about movies, TV, but really I like talking with you in the comment section. Please join us down there. And as always, thank you for watching.